Okay, here we go. It is the 28th, 9/28/17. Okay, example 1. It is 18. Why did you put 17? My goodness gracious, flashback, huh? Okay, find a polynomial, boys. I'm filming. Find a polynomial equation with roots of x equals 3, -1 and 2/3. So this one's not too bad. I like to go p of x instead of fx. I like p of x because it's a polynomial. You okay with that? P of x equals. Now, the only way I can get an answer of 3 was if I had an x minus 3 would give me an x equals 3. You guys agree with that? And the only way I can get an answer of x equals -1 is if I had an x plus 1, okay? Now the 2/3, I'm going to get a 3x minus 2, but I'm going to show you kind of how I got that, okay? Well, yeah, if I have a x equals 2/3, I can multiply by 3, right? Gives me a 3x equals 2, and I go bring over the 2 by subtracting it. And that'd give me a 3x minus 2 equals 0, okay? Or if you solve that, you'd get 2/3, okay with that? Now, that answer is good enough for me, but not good enough for the book, okay? So on a test, if you put this answer, I would take it, okay? Because it's one correct form. If you try and put this into the computer, they don't like it. So then we got to do our big FOIL, right? So I like to do these two first and bring this one in. That's just my preference, just like I warm up. So I'm going to go 3x squared minus 2x plus a 1x minus 2. This is exactly what we just did in that SBA practice problem. So we'd have a 3x squared minus a 1x minus 2, okay? But now I'm going to bring back in the x minus 3, and I'm going to do a super FOIL. So I get a 3x. Am I going too fast? Okay, I'll slow down for a second, okay? So I FOILed that. X, I get a 3x squared minus 2x plus, oh, no, I might have made a mistake. Sasha, you got to help me out. I think I made a mistake. That should be a 3x. Oh, I'm glad I slowed down. Thank you, Aiden. If I hadn't slowed down and moved back over it, I would have not seen my mistake. I got to rely on Sasha to find my mistakes. So after I FOIL these two into 3x squared plus 1x minus 2, I'm now going to do a super FOIL. Okay? Aiden, give me thumbs up when you're caught up, okay? Okay, so then 3x to the third, x times 1 makes a positive 1x squared minus a 2x, and then I'll get a negative 9x squared minus a 3x plus a 6. So go ahead and open up the door for me, Evelyn. Thank you. I'd get a 3x cubed minus 8x squared minus 5x plus 6. Now, again, I really want to emphasize to you. Yeah. So I really want to emphasize to you that this answer right here will work for me, okay? On a test, I'll take that answer, okay? You have to know that. I like this answer. I think it's a fine answer. However, the computer wants this answer, okay? So if you get this answer and try and put it in, they won't accept it. They'll say wrong, even though it is technically correct. You okay with that? This is the right answer. They just want it to be put down on that, okay? All right. Now, I'm going to pass that back to Braylon. Pass that back to Braylon. Now, example 2. Okay? So example 2, I'm going to go ahead and give you a graph. I want you to watch this graph. So if I had roots of 2, -3, and 1/2, right? So the equation of the graph could look like this. Right? Could. Sasha, watching? It could. It could also look like this. Do you agree? They're both correct. But they're totally different graphs, aren't they? Because it only says they have roots here, here, and here. So they're both right. So how can we make it so it's one or the other? Well, we pick a point, and in this case it says it has to pass through point 2, 0. So we're kind of looking at the green graph, right? So when we go ahead and get our equation, we've got to make sure that it goes to the point 0, 2. All right, so let's see if I can do that. Erase that. Erase, 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 erase. Okay. So if I had my p of x equals, I'll have an x minus 2 because that'll give me the positive 2. I'll have a x plus 3 because that'll give me the positive 3. And I'll have a 2x minus 1 because that will give me a 1/2. Okay, if I solve for x here, I'd get a 1/2. You guys agree with that? Now, the problem with that is that if I take a little drawing, because I want to put this on film, and if I had roots at 2, that's there, negative 3, that's there, and 1/2, that there's lots of different graphs that could go through those 3 points. One could look like this. I could have another graph that looks like this, right? I mean, I could have just about any kind of graph. I could even have a graph that looks like something like this, maybe. Right? Which is the right one? Well, you need a point for it to go through. And in this case, we have a point. It's 0, 2. So there is some value a. Remember doing this? There's some value a right here that will force it to go through the point 2, 0. So what we need to do then is solve for the a. Now, p of x and y are the same thing, right? Y equals, right? P of x and y are the same thing. F of x, y are the same thing. So what I want to do is take my point 0, 2, has an x value and a y, right? Every point has an x and a y. And I'm going to put my 2 in for my y, and I'll put my 0 in for my x's. So to make it go through the point 0, 2, I'm going to use the point 0, 2 as a point, x value, y value, to find some value a that will force it to go through the point 0, 2. Okay, so now I just need to simplify. Well, this isn't too hard to simplify. Of 2 equals a times a negative 2 times a 3 times a negative 1. Okay, I just simplified 0 minus 2 is negative 2, right? 0 plus 3 is 3, and 2 times 0 is 0, but minus 1 is negative 1. Okay, now I'm going to multiply this. I'll have 2 equals a times a 6, right? 2 times 3 times 1, negative times negative, okay? And then I'm just going to divide by 6, and I get 1/3, okay? Now, I know the value of a, so I'm going to take that answer and plug it right there, okay? So now I'm going to have a polynomial that will go through the point 0, 2, and it's going to be this one. It's y equals a 1/3 times an x minus 2 times an x plus 3 times a 2x minus 1. And that's the polynomial I want. It will have roots at 2, negative 3, 1/2, and because of this 1/3, it will definitely go through the point 0, 2. How am I doing?
Wait. Okay. What's the difference between that answer and the answer above?
Oh, such a good question. Okay, so Celeste, this we never asked to graph, right? But if we had to graph it, right? 2/3, right? So if we had to graph it, would it look like this? Maybe, sure. Would it look like this? Maybe, right? Maybe it even looks like this. I don't know. So we don't know. All we know is that we made a polynomial that has those roots. We didn't make any more than just it's any polynomial, right? This one's a very specific one because it has to go through the point 0, 2. That was a good question. This one's much more demanding, isn't it? Say, no, make a polynomial and make it go through the point 0, 2. This one's like, hey, here's a general polynomial, make sure it has those roots, right? Which makes, there's a lot of them that can happen, right? Okay, ready to turn the page? All right, now, let me get my eraser out because I'm going to need my eraser. All right, so what I want to do in this one, let me find my eraser. I'll borrow your eraser. Okay, thanks, E-Man. I'm going to borrow your eraser, okay? So I want to do this. So find a polynomial equation. So first of all, I'm going to have, oh, shoot, you guys. put a square root there. Square root of 3. Darn me. Put a square root. Everybody write a square. You can't write a square root of 3, E-man, because you don't have your pencil. Plus you're on your phone. So, boys, phone's out, man. I'm going to take them, okay? Understand? So, what we're going to do is this. I do know that part of my answer is an x minus 2, okay? I know that. I also know I'm going to have an answer of x minus 2 minus the square root of 3. But these come in pairs. They come in pairs. We do the square root plus or minus pairs. So there's also an x equals a 2 minus the square root of 3, okay? Don't write this down. Don't write this down. Don't write this down. So then I'd have an x minus 2 plus the square root of 3. And that's a mess, isn't it? And then you'd have to multiply this out to get it, right? And we can. Don't write this down. Just watch. X squared plus the square root of 3x minus a 2x minus another 2x plus 4 minus 2. Oops, put that here. Minus 2 square roots of 3, right? Minus a square roots of 3x plus a 2 square roots of 3. Let's see, minus the square root of 9. I'd get an x squared minus a 4x. That's a 3, so then plus 1, okay? Times x minus 2, okay? That's doing it the hard way. There's an easier way, okay? So, don't write that down. But before I move on, Sasha's writing it down, I love it. Okay, before I move on, we're doing the same thing, right? To get a 2, I had to make it a negative 2, right? Okay? To make a 2, I had to use a negative 2. To get a 2 plus square root of 3, I had to go a negative 2 minus square root of 3, right? To get a 2 minus square root of 3, I had to go minus 2 plus that, okay? And then I had to multiply, and there's my answer, okay? That is the way the book wants you to do it, and that will work. But there's a trick. There's a much easier way to do it, okay? I'll give this back, okay? So I don't want to do it this way. I can, but there's a much easier way to do this. So erase. Yes, I want you to copy this down, okay? Now, all right? So, here's what I'm going to do. I do know I need the x minus 2, because that's just a regular number, right? I know these come in pairs, so I know the other one is going to be an x equals a 2 minus the square root of 3. They have to come in pairs, plus or minus pairs. And we know they come in pairs because when we take the square root of any number, we get a plus or minus, right? They have to come in pairs because when we take the square root of a number, we always get a plus or minus, okay? Now, parentheses. We're going to use this formula right here instead. So it says x squared minus the sum plus the product. Now, sum means to add, and product means to multiply, right? This is actually pretty easy. Seems hard, but it's actually pretty easy, okay? So if I do the sum, let me do the sum over here. And this works for these types of numbers. So the sum is really going to be a 2 plus the square root of 3 and a 2 minus the square root of 3, and sum means to add them up, okay? So if I add them up, what do you get? That cancels. What do you get?
2, 4.
4. Now the product means to multiply, so I'm going to go product here, and I'm going to go, okay, that's going to be a 2 plus the square root of 3 times a 2 minus the square root of 3. Kind of sloppy, there we go. It's a cool trick, because the other option is the way I showed you in erase. That's a pain, huh? So let's multiply. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times a negative square root of 3 is a negative 2 square roots of 3. Square root of 3 times 2 is a positive 2 square roots of 3. The square root of 3 times square root of 3 is a negative square root of 9. These two middle terms cancel. You'll have a 4 minus 3, right? Minus 3, which is 1. Okay, now let's go back up to my formula. So I'm going to have an x squared minus the sum. Well, the sum was 4, so minus 4x plus the product plus 1. Isn't that the answer I got from doing it the ugly way? That's so much easier. Okay, trust me. Let's do the next one. We're going to do the same thing again for the next one. Okay, I'm going to show you how easy it is. Okay?
That's supposed to be square root 2? Or just plus 1?
Huh?
The next one? Is it supposed to be?
No, that's just supposed to be an I. Okay, so P of x. We're going to start off with P of x equals x minus 2. Everybody okay on the x minus 2, right? You guys see the x minus 2? Boys, pay attention. Now, we're going to do this x squared minus the sum plus the product, okay? So, I know that they come in pairs. I've got x equals 2 plus I, and I've got an x equals 2 minus I. They come in pairs, plus or minus pairs. They always do, because when you take the square root and you get an I, you're taking the square root, you get a plus or minus, okay? So then, let's go figure out what the sum is. So the sum is just to add them together. So I'm going to take my 2 plus I and my 2 minus I. So it's my 2 plus I, my 2 minus I. Sure, Sasha. So the sum, let's add them together. Well, the i's cancel, right? And we just get 4. So I'm going to put a 4 right there. And then the product, I'm going to go, okay, product, I got to multiply, okay? So I'm going to go 2 plus I times a 2 minus I. I'm going to get 4 minus 2I plus 2I minus I squared. Okay? Cancel, cancel. I'm going to get 4 minus, now I squared we said was negative 1, right? I squared is negative 1. So I get negative 1. I've got my double negative, so I get 4 plus 1 equals 5. Okay, so I'm going to put that right there. So here's my answer. X minus 2 times an x squared minus a 4x plus 5. Okay, there we go. And if we did do the quadratic formula, which we're not, if we did do the quadratic formula, we'd get 2 plus I and 2 minus I as answers. And up here, if we did do the quadratic formula on that, we'd get 2 plus the square root of 3 and a 2 minus the square root of 3 on those, okay? All right. Now,